Chapter 15, Early African Art, pages 408 to 419. Africa is a great continent comprising more than one-fifth of the world's landmass. It has many diverse zones, from parched deserts to the north and south, to high mountains in the east, to great rivers and lush valleys. Currently consisting of more than 52 nations, it has ranged in size from a few hundred hunting and gathering bands to several millions in kingdoms and empires. There are hundreds of distinct cultures and linguistic groups. All the ethnic groups in Africa made arts that differ according to economy, lifestyle, ideology, and the materials available to them. This short video will give you a brief but informative look at sub-Saharan African art through the 18th century. Outside Egypt and neighboring Nubia, the earliest African sculptures in the round have been found at several sites in the central Sudan. The terracotta knockhead, discovered in Rafin Kura, Nigeria, and dating to 500 BCE, has an expressive face with large alert eyes, flaring nostrils, and parted lips. The pierced eyes, mouth, and ear holes helped with the firing process. The mask's function is uncertain, though it was probably used for rituals. The artist is almost certainly female, as clay sculptors across the continent are generally female. 7 life-size terracotta heads discovered outside the town of Lydenburg in South Africa date to later centuries of the first millennium of our era. The heads are very human-like in form. Thin pieces of clay were added to the structure to create the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, and hairline. There are scarification marks intentionally created to form patterns on the flesh. The horizontal neckbands symbolize beauty, and there is a small animal on top of the head. The lower Niger area made ceramic, copper, cast bronze, and iron artifacts. The equestrian figure on fly whisk hilt, from Igbo Ukwu, Nigeria, and dating to the 10th century, is the earliest cast bronze discovered in Africa. By about 800, a walled town called Geni Geno in the inland Niger Delta had been built on high ground left dry during the flooding season. Hundreds of terracotta sculptures have been discovered here. At first appearance, the group illustrated appears to be a mother and her children, but the children are in fact adults with beards. The mother is probably a metaphorical woman. The most famous southern African site consists of stone ruins at a political center called Great Zimbabwe. The complex was a royal residence with special areas for the ruler, his wives, and nobles. As many as 18,000 people lived here. The perimeter walls reach heights of 30 feet. The great enclosure houses several stone towers. This is Bird with Crocodile image on top of stone from Great Zimbabwe. It is made of soapstone and is roughly 1 foot in height. Some speculate the bird and crocodile symbolize previous rulers who have acted as messengers between the living and the dead. Christianity had arrived in Ethiopia in the early 4th century. In the 13th century, Lalibela of the Zagwe dynasty commissioned a series of churches to be cut from living bedrock at his capital, also called Lalibela. Beta Medani Alem, or House of the Savior of the World, is the largest of these rock-cut churches. It has a nave with 4 flanking aisles. The Benin Kingdom was established west of the Niger River in the 13th century, but reached its golden age in the 15th and 16th centuries. The ivory belt mask of a queen mother from Benin, Nigeria, is made of ivory and iron. It was worn by a Benin king at his waist. The mask most probably represents Idia, the ruler Isiji's mother. The Oba, or Sacred King, is praised in this Ikigobo entitled Altar to the Hand and Arm. It is made of bronze and is 1.5 feet. The Sacred King is supported by 2 lower members of the court and a pair of leopards. Take note of the symmetrical composition. The Sapi people on the Atlantic coast of Africa carved ivory sculptures. This 17-inch salt cellar has been attributed to the master of the symbolic execution, a major Sapi ivory carver during the 1500s. At the top, an executioner is about to chop a man's head off. On the ground, 6 heads testify to his power. 2 male and 2 females sit between the rods. They are wearing European-style clothing, but the proportions of the figures are distinctly African in style.